because this AP scaling is gonna be of Melio's AP scaling. So this is ally attack damage, so it's like this champion is only gonna synergize with AD champions from the get-go, right? So Jhin is an absolute monster when you think of this. Melio keeps the fireball, knocking back the first enemy hit. If it hits, ball bounces past them and explodes, dealing 99% match time, surrounding enemies and slowing them. I think the main thing here is 12-second cooldown flat. The base damage goes up a lot per point, so this is definitely going to be like a lane ability. I have to see the E before I make like deep judgments on this, but at least that's where my mind goes. So basically this, I can see a world where you put a couple of points in Q for lane, like 3 points, Q, level 5, and then you max W, something like this. Cozy Campfire, now this was the interesting one, range. Cooldown 29, so it's exactly as I guessed, right? The Seraphine cooldown range, because this is going to be a very powerful ability. Creates a hut. There's 6 seconds is the duration, that is pretty large. Basically, you can probably, like in deeper late games, you can probably keep above, like less than 50% uptime, right? Like you can get to a 50% uptime of this for sure with some ability haste, right? Because the cooldown is going to start kicking in when you press this. This is definitely going to be the ability to max. Like you should transition into maxing this ability after putting some points in either Q and let's see. Meteor wraps another champion protective flames, granting and 50% move speed for 2.5 seconds. So the move speed is kind of nice. Ammo recharge. The shield duration is kind of low. But yeah, I would say probably it's like what's cool about this, right, is that when you put points in this, you get 30 shield and it's 2 stacks. So in theory you get 60 shield, right, per point. So that's a pretty big skill up gain. I think considering Q doesn't go down in cooldown, I think Q will be like a lane ability kind of button, and then W, you transition into maxing W at the moment you start to, you know, you want to make sure that like if you're around level 9, level 10, you get this ability max. I think that's going to be like the best way to play this jump for sure. That's my like general impression. Breath of Life. Milan uses Wave of Soothing Flames on nearby allied champions, cleansing, disabling and immobilizing effects. So this confirms that it removes suppressions. Restoring 150 health and granting 65% tenacity for 3 seconds. That is pretty crazy. This extra tenacity part means that there is no like this part is really big, because probably this is going to work well together with Mercs. Is not going to be put in the same bracket as the other sources of tenacity, similar to like Ornn and Garen. This is going to give you, because keep in mind, a lot of the champions that CC, they do it in combinations. Think about Lissandra as an example. She does WR, right? Mumu, Q, R. Gnar does R into W. There's usually layers of CC that they apply, right? And that portion of it makes this a lot stronger, for sure. Big thing though is the cooldown, right? The cooldown does match a lot of the big ultimates, right? I think the tenacity probably isn't necessary. I think it would give it a lot more skill expression, but this definitely makes it easier to use, right? Because there's going to be cases where you cleanse and then the tenacity doesn't matter against some champions, but it definitely makes it stronger, right? All in all, my first impression is like I would go into a game, I'll try putting some points in Q to see what's up. Maybe like these numbers to me look crazy. This looks really crazy. So this looks really nuts. Wow. This is going to be a massive scaler, honestly. The key thing here is that it doesn't show cooldown Like this doesn't show cooldown. Like I can make some crazy combos with this, okay? So keep in mind, it's like my W applies the passive, right? Applies the passive insanely often. I believe it's 3 times it applies. And then we're going to have warm hugs. This is going to also apply the passive. And then Q, I can apply the passive with Q. And then there's going to be situations where I can apply the passive with my R, right? And this can add up really fucking quickly, because an additional layer to this, right, is that let's say you play an AD heavy comp, picking this champion in your composition is going to convert your AD damage into magic damage, and that portion of it is super scary, in my opinion. So just once again, you can play an AD heavy comp and then you're going to be able to apply magic damage, and you're not going to be able to machine gun this, right? You're not going to be able to machine gun this because the burn damage doesn't stack, right? Because a lot of people have been talking to me about Lucian as an example, but like I'm thinking Caitlyn still, like Caitlyn, buy big AD and punch, you know? Like this is basically a mini GP passive. It's what it is, right? But magic damage, right? I think also from the wording of this means that this is not going to apply any effects from, this is going to work with mandates or things like this, right? This is going to be the damage, like this is going to be like Lulu picks damage. No, it's on max level, so it's 15 to 50%. On max level of the scaling, it's 50% ally attack damage as additional magic damage plus AP scaling, right? And the level of Melio over 1.5 seconds. So it's not like, yeah. Triss bomb is gonna rip someone's head off? Not really. It's better to have like more constant damage abilities. For example, like this sounds really good with Ezreal. With Ezreal, this sounds insane because of the spacing of your hits, you know? But I think Caitlyn, Aphelios, those Jinx, those champs stand out to me as really, really good ones. I think the Senna lane would be too weak. I think Senna Melio, from what it sounds like, is going to be too weak.
Here from Fnatic, and
all right, let's check out. Marek Brazila is the best deadpan in the industry. But oh shit, he has the best deadpan in the industry, dude. Look at his face. Oh, this is so good. That's it.
And today we've got our mid laner Humanoid here, and we're going to be talking about your all-pro, all-star team.
Alright, let's see it, Humanoid.
We start with top lane.
No, I want to start from bot lane.
Bot?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll start with support. Support will be Danik, because he's just, I think, the best support in the world right now.
Respect.
The second, the AD carry would be Karzi.
Oh, nice.
He's the best AD carry in the world right now.
Alright, wait, we got the comms down at least. Comms is down.
Really?
Yeah. Who would you pick for mid lane?
Mid lane, I would pick myself.
Because you're the...
Nice.
I'm the best mid lane in the world right now.
Nice.
At the moment. And for jungle, I would choose Yaki. He plays in the Czech league. Maybe some people don't know him, but he's the best jungler in the world right now. At top lane, I would
Mozilla?
probably choose Zeus from T1.
Okay,
Nice.
so you have 4 tech players
Yeah,
and Zeus.
yeah. I just chose the best players in the world.
Oh, okay. Why Zeus from T1?
When I watch him, I feel like he's kind of the best top laner right now in the world.
Okay, so you basically chose the best player in every position,
Yeah.
in your opinion, in the world. Not 4 Czechs and 1 Korean.
No. They just happen to be Czech.
You You want to do a serious one, or is
This is serious.
this is your locked in?
Yeah, locked in.
All pro team. Okay. Who's your jungler?
Yaki. He used to be in my team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like in Czech.
Oh my god, look at the young humanoid.
Why do you think he's the best jungler in the world?
Because, I mean, he just looks like he's playing really well all the time. You know? I won every single Czech tournament with him, so it was probably because of that mainly.
Why do you think you're the best mid laner in the world when you literally didn't make playoffs?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I mean, making playoffs and being the best in the world, that's two different things. You know? He was just unlucky. Just unlucky.
You're just unlucky. So you
What
wouldn't
can I
pick
say?
someone, you know, you wouldn't pick Faker. Some people would say he's the best player. That's
Maybe
ever.
I would pick random.
Who's random?
That's a Czech player. He might be the best player in the world. Actually.
Who's better than you?
Yeah.
And you chose Kazi as the best AD carry, or as you said, the best AD carry in the world right now, and part of your all-star lineup. You
Bro,
wouldn't
I have
pick
to tell you guys a
someone
story. Like, honestly, Karzi looks exactly like this kid that was in my neighborhood called Brear. And basically, he would just show up, okay? We would be like maybe skating in the park, doing random shit. He would just show up. Very young kid, okay? I think he was so attention starved. He would always do like the most fucked up shit, like in a world where like, he would just injure himself. Like he would just like jump off of like buildings and like fall, and then he would like fucking break his arm and just sit there and laugh. And Karzi looks exactly like this dude. It's insane. Like this guy would like throw stones at windows. Like he would just do the most crazy stuff. And I see him every time I see Karzi, this kid named Brear. And he would just do the most mental things. He would do crazy things. It's like Brear would be like a perfect writer for the Eric Andre show. It's mental what this kid was doing.
Or, as you said, the best AD carry in the world right now, and part of your all-star lineup. So you wouldn't pick someone like, I don't know.
I was thinking about Patrick actually. This is like the role that I wasn't sure of. So I just decided by flipping a coin and landed on Karzi. Because I think those two are both the best players in the world and they are like kind of even, so I had no idea who to choose.
In the support role, you picked Denik,
Yeah.
also a Czech player. Best support that ever played the game, or?
I mean, I wouldn't say that ever played the game, but probably in the last at least 5 years, he's the best in the world.
Have you been watching Keria in LCK, or?
I mean, I feel like Keria is kind of copying him, to be honest. Because I've seen Denix do some nasty stuff on the bot lane to the enemy support, and I think Keria is mainly watching his replays and trying to improve from him.
Okay, well there you have it, guys. That was Humanoid's All-Star Pro Team. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Nice.
Maybe we can rate this team later on.
Right?
Yeah, like we
how
put it on paper and then we have someone come in and say who has the best All-Pro team.
I mean, I can't imagine a better all-pro team. This roster that I just told you, except the top laner won like 5 straight Czech tournaments in like 2 years, like almost all of them. So
Were you part of that?
I
team
don't think anyone else won as many Czech tournaments as me. The results speak for themselves.
Faker's never won a Czech tournament in his life.
Yeah.
What an absolute
Never
scrub.
seen him there.
Thanks for your time, Humanoid, and see you in the next one.
See ya.
That's it.
Nice.
You absolute troll.
Nice. That's a good one. That was enjoyable. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's check out this LEC Spring 2023 roster update video. All right, let's see what G2 cooked up for us.
Hey guys, it's Dylan here.
Hey, Dylan.
I wanted to update you all with our plans for the spring split now that we've qualified for MSI. After a lot of internal discussions and meetings, we decided that for
Yo, I already see that Dylan is acting, dude. My man, I don't believe this at all, man. I don't really know he's lying. Look at his face. Yeah, he's trying so hard to be serious. I can see through this shit. Dylan's acting, dude. He's trying to hold back so
Our
hard.
best chances of performing internationally, that we will travel to Korea and scrim LPL and LCK teams in preparation for international competition.
Wait, no VCS?
Unfortunately, that means that BB, Yike, Caps, Hansama, and Mickey X will be unable to perform for us in the spring LEC split.
Oh,
Fortunately,
that
though,
sucks,
we've done a lot
Dylan.
of scouting and analyst work to try and field a roster that we feel will be competitive
Give
and
us,
fun.
give it a
For
super
top
with the
lane,
best statistics. Give
we'll
it to
be
us.
fielding the boss.
Oh,
For jungle,
nice.
the god himself, Gilius.
Why,
80 carry?
why are you doing this to Gilius? It's like we're going from the Bows to Gilius? Why are they throwing Gilius under the bus like that? My man is actively trying to compete. Gilius. They're just throwing Gilius into this joke. Okay.
We will bring back the legend Forgiven.
Wait,
as for-
no mid lane? Forgiven?
Support, of course, Promiscu. We need
Okay.
coaching staff as well. Grabs, who gave us this wonderful idea, will be coming in as coach. And for analyst, we'll be bringing back Duffman.
Nice.
You might be wondering, who's the mid laner? It's a big shoes to fill Caps's. But we will be bringing in the man you all know as Pedro. We know this roster is kind of troll, but we think it'll bring a lot of attention to our wonderful
This roster is kind of troll, like Gilius. Gilius is there, man. Gilius is trying to compete, man.
sponsors and partners. We're actually very happy with the result. And let's be honest, guys, Spring Split doesn't really matter anyways.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, fuck. None of them actually signed the contracts? Are they on the plane to Korea yet? No. Okay, guys. I think we have to cancel it. I guess we'll stick with the same roster then? Oh, man, that sucks.
This is so shit and good at the same time. Respect, I like it. I like this. That's good. They just canceled it, okay? I feel like that joke is so dead, man. Gilius and Cadril just catching strays. This is so bad, and oh, here he is. Hey yo. Hey yo. Bro, legit, yesterday I was playing with a dude that cancelled it. It's crazy. Alright.
One of the things that you kind of look at, this is a thing that one of my painting teachers really had us, do in school, was take a look at how lights and shadows worked on something that was a dark local color, and how light and shadow worked on something that was a bright or white local color. And you find that even in this, like this example, we've got shadows in the white here that actually don't get darker than the lights in the this dark local color, right? And so even though we're getting these like deep shadows in here, comparatively, we're still sitting at a value that is above the value, even the brighter values that we're seeing in this like kind of darker satin or black satin. And so that's a thing that as you're kind of considering this, we've got the full like value spectrum that's going almost all the way to black, in this like white material. I think we can, especially since we're looking at a character, let me zoom all the way out here. Oh, one of my notes go on. There we go. We've got mainly a dark character on a dark background. There's a little bit of light on the ground there, and there's a little bit of light on the area above her. And so this is a place where I think we can really focus on trying to bring out, also using color temperature here to help separate her. So we've got this warm light source here that's in the front. It's just, I guess I should just talk about this. Really, really simple way of painting VFX or things like that is a linear dodge. You make a new layer, you've got linear dodge, instead of needing to fill it with black. If you just open up the layer, normally these two checkboxes here are checked and you just uncheck them and you set it to linear dodge. If you just basically use dark saturated colors and build up from there, it's like a magic brush. Like you literally can just, you know, start to paint in magic or even light anywhere, and it's real simple. So I made an action that literally just creates a new layer, sets it to linear dodge, and unchecks those two boxes, and I bound that to like F4, and I use it whenever I need to like create light. I used it for the you know, some of the stuff that was going on in the background here when I wanted to like add the top lighting to the smoke. You know, I'm using it here on the VFX. I'll also use it, you know, as kind of like a cooler color to balance. You know, we've got the light hitting the shoulders here. Maybe this reflected light can kind of get a little bit cooler. But then for this, we want to really kind of fill in some of this area of really dark. And the like really desaturated colors in the skin. Can really pump those. To bring back some of the local color in here. And then we can just have that fall off like as it's coming down here. And then you literally just go back in and erase out the shadows, like the cast shadow here, you know, or the underside of this arm. We want to kind of have this maybe fall off as it goes around her face and things like that, right? You kind of go back in and sculpt the light. And so what we're doing with that is basically bringing up some of the like mid-tone values and saturating them so that you get more of that color in the rest of the image, or not in the rest of the image, in the mid-tones that are right now very desaturated. You know, bringing if we want to make the colors sing, we really want to bring up those, bring up the mid-tone saturation, and then also really focus on balancing and separating our warms and cools. Warm and cool, I'll talk a little bit about that later. I'll probably put a class together on that because it's one of the things that really confuses the hell out of most starting artists. Even some artists that are kind of further along in their journey really struggle to understand kind of the relative relationships between warm and cools. You can have a warm, you know, purple and a cool purple. You can have a warm blue and a cool blue. You can have a warm red and a cool red. The questions then that get asked are like, is the warm blue cooler than the cool red? The answer is yes, but like that kind of relationship is something that you want to be thinking about. You have all of your colors in the image. You want to be thinking about, what are my warm light sources? What are my cool light sources? If I'm setting up a warm key light, maybe I can have a cool fill light or a bounce light or things like that to kind of help round out the form. And so with this, you know, this purple here, it's kind of warmer on the top end, and then it's, you know, we've got the core shadow, and then we've got the cooler bounce light on the bottom. That really helps to kind of round out the form. We can do that with literally everything, and that's going to help us, you know, really get this to like sing, as you say.
My notes are just around frequency of detail, particularly in that hair. Definitely design it in planes and layers first, and don't get too feathery, scraggly. And then also, my eternal note that remember that your base and construction determine sort of the upper limit that you can get out of a character, and so making sure that you're really happy with how this anatomy is working under drapey clothing, how this character is drawn, agnostic of the costume, and whether that costume is correctly interacting with her form. So the left arm, screen right arm, is super long. If you draw through that bad boy, you will see that her upper arm is longer than her torso. And so is just the whole thing is way out there.
Yeah. I don't know, warp the heck out of the hand, but you get the idea. Other things too, her hands are very small. It's like okay to have them be delicate. I know Eli has talked, a bunch on previous streams about this. Can probably even go bigger than this, but since generally women have smaller hands on average than men. It's not always. So we probably won't bring them up too much, but they're much more in proportion now to her head. One of the things with hands is you generally want to, like if you're putting your hand in front of your face, it's basically going to be like an outstretched hand is going to be around the size of the face from hairline to chin. And so that's kind of a good rule of thumb, as you're building out your proportions, to get that to feel correct. Just be careful about putting super brights in the corner of the image that don't. I know I put that one there, but we have the like super desaturated, actually like 100% desaturated candles here. Again, like and also like as things are giving off light, especially things that emanate light, you really want to be cognizant of like what light that's emanating. Is it a warm light? Is it a cool light? Maybe this is her domain. I'm looking at kind of the design of her horns and the design of these things, and it's telling me that they're like similar, and so maybe let's go. Just to help to like spread some of the warms around the image right now, since it's predominantly cool except for this like one spot here. I'm gonna flip this just to kind of get some fresh eyes on it. Cool. Okay.
Kind of like it flipped.
Yeah. I think one of the things that jumps out to me now that it's flipped is actually the balance of the pose.
Yeah.
She's like, her head is actually further out than her hip, which is not really the way that you can kind of balance. We can still, this is probably going to warp the hell out of the it, but in the interest of time. It's slightly more balanced, you know, in the pose. Can kind of get some of that back. Cool. And then I'd probably just pick up some highlights from this thing in the foreground so that it separates from. There's a tangent here, like, you know, in copying this and moving it forward, we probably want to kill the tangent here that's happening. The other thing too, I would just taking this whole piece, maybe not that much, but just kind of scooting it over because, you know, we've got a whole bunch of dead space over here. So that's basically kind of the main things that I would hit here. You've got reflections in the eyes. I'd probably also have the reflections from the eyes be the color of the thing that she's looking at, you know, which she's creating. Get that ring light effect. I need to restart my computer from now on before I start streaming. Other things too, like as you're building out form on things, it's kind of have the warmth that's coming through the hands. What was I saying? Form. Okay, so the last thing I'll leave you with is just thinking about, as you're trying to create form, thinking about 3D space and cast shadows. Kind of cast shadows are your biggest indicator of form. Do something like that. So you've got the cast shadow that the hand would be creating on the shirt or the dress. You've got cast shadows from you know, underneath this, and then maybe still picking up some light here. It's an area where I'd probably tone this down. This isn't a cast shadow, but it's because you have the bright of this elbow really kind of pulling you into the back of this form, but the light that's hitting the character, or that particular light source, is coming from behind. I would be thinking about like, how is the body actually casting a shadow here? So like as the light's coming forward, like this shoulder is literally casting a shadow on this arm. And then how do we make sure that this light down here on the elbow doesn't actually compete with the light that's happening on the head? Because right now, if you look at it, it actually is, right? Especially with the amount of contrast that's going on down here. This is a thing that Alex Flores would talk about with highlights and with lights in general. You always want to be thinking about what in your image is winning. You know, and so if we want the focal point to be up on this head, we probably want the light up here to win. We want the light on her face to win, the amount of contrast, all of that. And it's a matter of setting up a hierarchy. And so the way that we kind of set up the hierarchy is making sure that first thing wins. Then maybe the shoulder is the next thing to pick up light. But this elbow down here should be something that actually loses to both of those other areas. Just like, you know, if we have, you know, reflected light or something like that on the hip, you know, as we're kind of cascading down from this focal point, that we have brightest, second brightest, third brightest, maybe fourth brightest, or not at all, right? And there's a clear fall off in hierarchy to what's winning. So I think that's probably where I'm going to leave you on this piece. It's interesting, as I'm looking at the rest of your work from your, where did we go? There it is. The way you're handling color in here is actually very mature. Like you have a very clear sense of what should be getting saturation and what, you know, kind of would fall off, and how to balance that really well. I think when we get to here now, we're starting to kind of lose that, and it falls down a little bit. And so this is a place where I don't know why you're doing it so well, and please take this as a compliment. Like, you're doing it really, really well here, and then when you're treating color in this illustration, it's kind of fallen down a little bit. But as I'm kind of looking at this, these are kind of generally the ways that I would, you know, balance the colors in this image and you know, try to enhance the story and composition a little bit. Oh, here we go. Okay, I have a question. My look on the piece, I wanted to be, she is lonely. So then I was trying to get that feel in the blues and stuff. Does warmer light still work with it? Yeah, so as you're kind of balancing it, again, going back to, man, frame dank is the thing that I keep wanting to like bring it back to, but when you're setting up relationships, you want to understand what things you might be communicating. And so if we want to try to create like a feeling of being lonely here, maybe, so she's creating this little avatar friend here. If I'm trying to show her lonely, then thinking of the warm and cool relationships actually from the perspective of, maybe then we want the sand in the background to be cooler. Maybe we want this is going to look really jank. I'm going to try to revamp these. So now the only things that are warm in the image are the things that she's creating, right? And she's enveloped by cool colors, right? And so now she's the only little like light in this kind of vast sea of darkness and of like cool, cold colors, and that really helps to kind of play up this feeling of being, you know, isolated, or kind of on an island, or that she's really the only one that's kind of, you know, holding this small candle, you know, in her like, you know, domain. And that'll really help to kind of, again, going back to some of the earlier examples where we want to show Xena and what's her name again?
Gabrielle.
Gabrielle, thank you. You know, enveloped by, you know, just this massive horde of, you know, enemies. With this, we're showing her as this like one small light in, you know, this massive room of dark and cold. And that'll help to set up that relationship to kind of emphasize the loneliness. Yeah, that makes sense. I usually get too much into saturation, so I was very strict here. I need to loosen up again. Yeah. So that's kind of the things that I would do to this image. The last thing. So we've got, you know, the warmth of this like circle. But then we've got the like little avatar that's inside as being like very desaturated, and what it shows me is like this is very separate from the actual magic, but I don't think that's what you're trying to communicate. Maybe you are, but if it were me, I'd probably go in and really kind of hit this with, you know, something to like bring it in line. And last. It's kind of very small inside of this, inside of that shape. Do a little trick here. Give it a glow. So those are the things that I would do to like really kind of ramp this up.
Silver, if you export this as a JPEG or something, I can upload it and link it so Blanky can use the PO.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right.
All right, Blanky, here you go. And this is all tip the iceberg stuff. Remember that this is a good guide, but you know, there's lots more to do here. So set yourself up for success with process.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. Thank you, Blanky. Vika, what do we got? What are we working on right now, and what are the things that we can help you with? Vika is an art student from Russia. Vika, if we still have you, just giving a sense of goals. Perfect. Okay, so my ultimate goal is being something like what Gen Z is for Supergiant. So things from Shara art to concept to character art to concept.
So Gen Z being the principal illustrator at
Supergiant.
Yeah, Supergiant, originating their game styles. So.
she have an art station?
No, she has a DeviantArt.
DeviantArt is a blast from the past. There's no
I don't
offense to
think it's
anybody who's
current.
still.
Plus,
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know about you all, but I loved Hades. Although I don't know many people who didn't love Hades. So Scott, Gen Z actually has, you know, somewhat of a unique style from an industry perspective. It's very like focused on specifically like the genre and the like studio that she's working in. A lot of the work actually ended up kind of getting based off of like her style. Put my portfolio link, you might look at it. I know it's already been reviewed by Eli. I wanted to perspective from another artist before it has been 4 years. No art advice, gotcha. Okay. So, but the goal is basically games or wanting to get into illustration for games. All right. I'm gonna restart Photoshop real quick just to kind of clear up some. RAM. All right, cool. Yeah, games with much 2D stuff in them. Yeah. Gotta love those games with 2D stuff in them. We as a company survive on games with 2D stuff in them. All right. I'm gonna take this piece and kind of work it up a little bit. See if there's some things that we can do. All right. We got our character, I'm assuming in the middle of the desert, and they're sitting in front of a fire. My first question is, where did we get the wood for that fire? But that is something that I'm willing to suspend disbelief on. All right, before I do that, I'm gonna just do a quick draw of some of the stuff that's going on here. So we've got our character sitting on the same plane as we've got a fire. I like the shape that you're creating for the fire. Like it feels really like a well thought out shape. And then we've got a horizon line that's kind of sitting here. Right now, if I just kind of do this is like the hierarchy of the piece, right? Which is that we're saying that the two, you know, the elements here of, you know, the fire and the character are of equal importance because they're basically the same size. And, you know, we've got this like one shape of the fire, and then we've kind of got basically a triangle of the character. They're sitting pretty much on the horizon with not a whole lot that's kind of leading us to the back. And so a few things that I would just do to this really quick to kind of like play into the story that we're telling is the main reason why that's not a great thing in my opinion is because you're not really helping us understand how we should feel about the character, about the fire, or about the environment. By having them all be relatively equal weight in the story, we're not giving the viewer a clear sense of like what you want them to feel. So there's a number of different ways that we could go about doing this, like making the viewer feel feelings. Come on. That's it. I'm buying a new computer tomorrow. I think it's the streaming. Like, I don't really have this issue with opening up large PSDs and stuff. Let's do that. Got our mountains in the background. And just like kind of bring the horizon up a little bit. Oh. All right, and then we'll take our character. So just by doing this and rearranging it, we've now set up a relationship from a basic standpoint. Now we at least know that we identify more with the character than we do with the fire, right? You might want us to identify more with the fire than the character. That's things that you can do in that instance are like, you know, really kind of put the character in shadow. What are we struggling with here? Yeah. You really put the character in shadow and then, you know, allow the details to kind of like fall away. And, you know, we'll add like more things in the fire, you know, like maybe visions or other things that she might be seeing in order to be able to kind of say that the fire is more important. But since there's a character in here, I'm just going to assume that like we want to be identifying with the character. Now the question is like, what do we want to be saying about the character? We've got like an interesting pose here. You know, focus before like getting into like draw throughs and stuff on anatomy and whatnot. Just kind of focus on the pose in general, which feels really lighthearted. And so I'm not getting a whole lot in terms of like her relationship to the fire, to the desert. Other than it seems like an easy time. And, you know, when we're trying to create drama or trying to create, you know, some semblance of like the story here, we want to have a clear understanding of what the kind of thing that's happening, the thing that might be getting in the way, and then the way in which the character's conquering it. These can be really simple. They don't need to be these epic things. Like if you want to just have a quiet moment, that can be really engaging. But you just want to find something to make the viewer, you know, really kind of feel feelings either for this character, against this character, with this character. Yeah. So maybe we want to show, you know, the vastness of, you know, the like, maybe we want to show the vastness of the environment, you know, that the character is in, but, you know, despite being in this like enormous, you know, kind of sea of desert, she is like totally nonchalant about it. That's something where I would just basically kind of, again, doing something like this, you know, would instantly help that. You can really make this like epic starscape, you know, up here that she's looking at, and now we get this sense of a quiet moment where she's in the middle of a desert, and we've got this epic, you know, kind of awe-inspiring sky. And we can really play up. Other things too, like as we're the perspective on this is going to be way off, but it will at least communicate the things that